here, up yonder, Zoom it or whatnot.
Much better. Thank you.
No, you're clear now.
I've been a painting all day.
Hey, I've decided to go with that soffit from the ceiling roof. Be easier to put up, and I got a measure, and I've got a J channel, and I don't think I'll need the F channel, maybe on the side. Yeah, F channel on up, right? J channel on the bottom. We could go up, and on the side, usually it's F's. It'd be a flat, to go in.
Yeah.
But I need some guttering, people.
Campbell's gutter.
Well, I know where Campbell's, but can you get them?
Yeah. I think them or a custom gutter is pretty good too.
So make up your mind which one I would get, and I'll get.
I would get Campbell if I was gonna get one.
I think I've used them before.
They're good.
I only need so actually what I'm doing is just 18-foot gutter, but on the front you put one of them drains where the D's come down, they put a little gutter in there, and
If you get them and they come over and do that, I'll give you a measurement and have you to have them rub me off a piece, and I'll come over and pick it up, and I'll pay you for it or pay them, however you want me to do.
I may even get my garage. It's 36 feet long, both sides, and then one across the front. 24. It got a look like a porch.
Yeah.
Like a U horseshoe connected. Might as well do that while I'm at it. I was in my safe. This is we call it Preacher's Week. We recognize.
No, you didn't. We didn't get paid for our highway meeting, but I don't know if they'll get us a separate check or if they'll put it on next month. But either way, we'll get it. I'll let you know something when I find out more about it tomorrow.
Was I there?
Huh?
Was I even there?
Yeah, you're the highway meeting.
Yeah, you can vouch for me.
Yeah.
What time did it start?
Both starting at 5 o'clock. It's 5 later.
I mean, I'll be around. Find me a stick.
Okay, it looks it's 5:02 by my timepiece. So why don't I call us to order, even though it's a workshop? And as Abby flashed up earlier, it's a special call workshop meeting to talk with members of the Carter County Health Department as well as the Regional Health Director. I understand that Caroline Hurt is on with us, but Dr. David Kershke has yet to Zoom in, but I think we can probably go ahead and get started. As you know, this meeting was precipitated by a few commissioners and others that contacted me, as well as let their concerns be known about the gathering that would occur on November the 23rd to choose the mayor of Carter County to serve out Mayor Barnett's remainder term. And we were going to do that in Hampton High School and be able to socially distance, but we could also end up with a lot of the public as well as candidates' families, and it could become a little bit contentious, particularly in the environment that we find ourselves in with COVID-19. So Caroline, as we reached out to you, can you give us an overview of what's actually going on with the contagion right now and where our numbers are? And then we'll talk a little bit about maybe the safety issues.
Sure, I would be glad to. Right now, over the last 7 days, ending yesterday, the 27th, we have a positivity rate, and this is not just true of Carter County, all across the state. We've got a positivity rate of tests that are coming back positive that's on an increase. We like to see that positivity percentage below 10%. And right now, over the last 7 days, we were averaging 15.2%. Our cases are going up. I was just signing off of a governor's briefing right before coming on to this meeting. And in that governor's briefing, just started at 4 o'clock, he made the very specific call to action to be aware that our hospitalizations are going up. That is true for this region. That is true for Carter County. We are contributing to that. The call was to really focus on the need to continue social distancing, wearing cloth face coverings, practicing good hand hygiene at all times. We've become a little bit complacent, a little fatigued in doing those things, and it is showing. We are not having increased cases just because we're doing increased testing. That is not true. We are seeing more cases with a fairly stable amount of testing, which has always been high. We've always done a pretty good volume of testing. But in that fairly stable amount of testing, we are seeing a greater percentage of positives. We are seeing classrooms and employers being affected, specifically in our county. And I think, well, for the White House report, we are currently in a red zone. And this is the first time that we've been in a red zone. Prior to this, we were in a yellow zone. So we have now joined a red zone county.
Okay, thank you. So in gatherings such as the one that we were or are looking at, what has been the rule of thumb, and what is the health department and regional health directors suggesting that we do?
Right. So I happened to be in on the Zoom meeting, the last one that you all had, and Josh is exactly right. The attorney is exactly right about Executive Order 63 did remove the number, the specific number of 50 people or more from the specifics. However, Executive Order 63 still stresses that social distancing remains imperative. It still stresses that we have to assess how we're getting together and having public gatherings as far as maintaining appropriate social distancing for each situation. It still stresses that persons with COVID-19 or COVID-19 symptoms must stay at home. So there's still quite a few caveats that still apply to that executive order, even though it did remove that number, that specific number. So the health department says still continue to set up your public gatherings where you can maintain that good social distance, which is 6 feet between people. When we have public gatherings, we do acknowledge that families can come in and cohort together. That's perfectly appropriate and understandable. But in between those cohorts of families, we would want that good 6 feet of space. We do still recommend without question that mask mandates be followed. And when there is a public gathering, that folks are wearing a cloth face covering. We do recommend that that there be hand sanitizer at entrances and exits so that people can, when they touch surfaces, because we're still, not trying to overlook that, if we do have folks that are amongst us that maybe are, bringing virus from home, potentially, we want to make sure that we've got hand sanitizer there. So these are the things that we would still, that we very much right now, more so than ever, need to continue to adhere to.
Okay. And as we discussed last week, I believe it was, and of course, like at the Boys and Girls Club, and I'm sure in maybe some of the schools or other functions, churches, et cetera, other gatherings, I know that temperature checks are being conducted, and you made the recommendation that that not be done. Would you like to explain that to us, please?
Sure. This is something that we acknowledge with the schools. It's a great example when we're thinking about trying to temperature check kids coming in. You know, when you have a situation like that and you're trying to temperature check everybody, it usually results in a bottleneck of people. So you actually have people that are bottlenecking and gathering up closer than is recommended as they are waiting to be temperature checked. So I think that, you know, just like we would not want to trade the notion of catching someone with a temperature coming in, you know, we balance that risk with actually creating a more condensed group of people at an entrance to a location. And I think that risk probably outweighs the other. However, we also think that it's very important to do promotion and public announcements prior to events like this to remind folks that if they are sick, that they need to stay home.
Okay. Well, I think, and everybody has heard, and I'll let the mayor comment on this. I'm sure, Caroline, you've heard, but I understand that the governor is going to, or has already, I didn't attend his briefing today, but is going to extend the electronic medium for us to have the opportunity to meet until at least the end of December.
That's correct, Dr. Acuff. He plans on doing it at the end of the week, along with the extension of the mask mandate for the mayors.
Okay. All right. So are there any questions for Caroline Hurt while we have her on the line? I don't see Dr. Kershke yet. He may not make it. Caroline said he had his plate full this afternoon. So if anybody has questions, let's just open it up.
Dr. Acuff, Brad
Yes,
Johnson,
sir.
third. It's a comment with a question. With the COVID-19 and the executive order set down by the governor, and the only thing that we understand has changed that he has lifted the maximum number in any gathering. The common sense thing is we have just went through a period where we have stayed low on our contamination rate. And then all of a sudden, us, the region and the state and the nation has now begun to peak out and going higher, which has seriously tasked our medical facilities. Johnson City Medical Center, Sycamore shows everybody in Ballard Health that serves our region. And with such contagious rates and all, why are we changing? Because we went through all of our meetings by Zoom. We adopted budgets for the whole county operation by Zoom. All we're doing we're getting complacent ourselves. And I think we're creating harm more than we are good. If we do have the meeting at Hampton High School or any high school or any gymnasium, I would recommend that the folk be known that there's nobody comes in the doors that's not going to be masked regardless of what they feel. Now, I know there's a lot of people who, they're complacent or they have come to a stance that there's nothing to this pandemic because of the way that our political process has degraded it in some form or fashion. But there's nobody can explain why my hospitals are getting full if we don't have a problem. Now, there's people on our commission, and I being one, that we're going to be very cautious, even if we attend with it, because of our medical health problem. Is it worth catching it and then, being a fatality number?
Chairman Acuff.
Yes, sir. Chairman Hill.
To speak on Mr. Johnson's question, at the time that I picked this meeting date out, we was not sure that electronic meetings would be extended. So that's why we did it in person and we looked at the best option. Now that the mask mandate and the electronic meetings are being extended, I have no issue if the will of this body is to move it to a Zoom meeting for the safety of not only our commissioners, but the public health at large, then I'm perfectly fine with that.
Thank you, sir.
Chairman Acuff, Mike Hill, District 2.
Yes, sir.
Question for Ms. Hurt. Carolyn, what exactly is the risk to the folks that will be sitting on the gymnasium floor, as well as the folks that are going to be possibly in the office at an event indoors with, theoretically at least 100 people, maybe 200, maybe 400, we don't know. What is the risk of contagion in a situation like that?
I'm not sure that I could give you a specific level of risk of contagion. I can tell you, and I can reiterate that in any level of public gathering, doesn't matter how many or how few, if we can't maintain 6 feet of distance between cohorts of families, then there is a heightened risk.
Chairman Acuff, this is Aaron Frazier.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I'm hearing from people that have called me and from things that I've seen online where the meeting has been posted already and that sort of thing is people are under the assumption that it's going to be taken over as that we're just going to elect any good old boy and the public input is not going to be taken into consideration. I think that's one thing that previous commissions has kind of strapped us with, that sort of stigma, but I don't think it's the situation now. But that is one thing that possibly should be considered as well.
Right, I would assume, and I'm not going to speak for Chairman Travis Hill. I'll let him speak for himself, but obviously he controls the floor and the dialogue thereof. And I don't know how much, I know what I plan to do once we get a finalized list. I'll send it out to constituents in the first district and ask them to let me know their wishes of the candidates on that list. Travis, I'll let you speak on how you're going to run that meeting. Is there going to be any input from the public, or they'll have a chance to speak, or is it primarily candidates and commissioners?
Well, Dr. Acuff, at the time, having it in person, I wanted as much public input and transparency as possible for everyone. But with, like I said, with the rising the numbers, I'm not sure really that it's not in the best interest not to have it by Zoom. I was planning on having public comment. And like I said, if they want to submit questions to me to pass along to the moderator to read to specific candidates or to all candidates, I'm very open to that. I think I put that in my statement to the paper that I would accept any questions or just statements in general to read out. But again, I'm open. I'm very open to everybody's suggestions. This is a group effort. This is not just on me. I want the public to be able to participate, and I want all the commissioners to be able to participate and feel safe in doing it. So does anybody have any suggestions of how we could to fulfill both sides of that issue?
Chairman, Mike Hill, District 2.
Yes, sir.
Another question for Ms. Hurt, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but as the resident health expert, what do you advise us to do? Is this format, this public format, even anything we should be considering at this point?
I certainly don't want to hedge on giving you an answer. I do want to remind everyone that public health doesn't make recommendations for local county government. We want to support you in your efforts. We want to let you know what we think is a good plan, what we think is a better plan. And I think that if the public is going to be together, if we cannot ensure that there will be mask wearing, social distancing, and proper hand hygiene, and ensure that we are not creating a situation where there is a gathering of public and those things are not being met, then public health would not consider that a particularly safe event. If you are considering doing something that allows for a virtual platform that ensures all those things, then of course public health would support that 110%.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. I do know, and I know Abby's on with us. When we were setting up this meeting, I mentioned to her about some commissioners who would want to take the opportunity to use the Zoom technology to attend the meeting. There are some technical issues, and Abby, I'll let you chime in if you want, regarding being able to mic everybody in the room or have a satisfaction level where everybody can be heard.
Yes, we can mic a small group of commissioners. So if we had our commissioners that have the difficulty with the Zoom, such as Mark Blevins and Jerry Prophet and Charlie Von Cannon and Willie Campbell together in a room, we could have them together. The executive order does allow that in electronic meetings. It doesn't prohibit groups of commissioners being together in one location to log in together. We could even do that as a hybrid format if we wanted to open it up to where we have a group of them there in person, those that have the difficulty with Zoom. Everybody else can log in from their usual locations, and then maybe have some public access to come to that location to be able to speak and be heard.
Okay, thank you.
One other question for Abby. What's the max number that we can feed into this Zoom, into our Zoom account, Abs?
I believe it is set up for 250. If not, I will get with Anthony, and if we need to increase the membership for a month to be able to allow more callers in, we can do that.
Okay, other questions or comments?
Dr. Acuff, I just want to make a comment. I know I'm not trying to say too much because I want to do the best for our community, but I want us as elected officials to set an example for our community. I've been on the phone all week with Zoom calls with the mayors and Ballot Health, and Caroline and I have spoken. I mean, what we're seeing is the community is becoming lax, and the area mayors and myself are deciding to put together a PR campaign to start running commercials, to start trying to reach out to the certain age groups, to influence them to wear the mask, to participate in the social distancing, because a lot of people have just really gotten lax in that. And so it's kind of odd for me to say I'm going to participate our county in a Zoom and a campaign for mask wearing and social distancing, and then us try to hold a public gathering versus what all the area mayors are also trying to do. And we're really trying to stick together in the area and stay on the same page. So I want Carter County to be an example of that. And we are leading that. I did take the lead on that PR campaign, and we are going to try to get that out there. So just wanted to make you guys aware of that. We need to lead by example in our community.
Yeah, good comment, good comment. So I'm
Commissioner Acuff.
Commissioner Blevins, go ahead. You're first, and then Commissioner Culler.
Okay, are we gonna try to vote on this tonight? What we
No.
need to do?
No, sir, we can't vote on it. This is a workshop.
Okay, yeah.
So we can't deliberate to anything tonight, or take a vote.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Acuff. I think, just my opinion, that the Zoom, I think it ought to be, we got to consider everybody's health, and I'm for the Zoom myself.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Culler?
Yes, question for Attorney Harden. What is our end date exactly on electing a mayor?
I can't remember the exact date, but I know the regular scheduled December meeting would be in time by a day or two. I remember that. So that's kind of where we're at.
Thank you.
Josh, it started September 21st, the 120 days.
Yeah, I think the December meeting's on the 21st or 19th or something. Anyway, it was a day or two in time, I think, when I looked at it.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? I don't want to cut anybody off. Go ahead, Attorney.
I can do it now. I don't certainly don't have a vote. And I want to say from last time, I don't know, sometimes maybe I get overzealous in giving you all an opinion. And my opinion doesn't necessarily matter on this issue. I don't have a vote. You all decide. And I don't want anybody to think that, that I'm outweighing concern over health issues with the legality of the meeting, because obviously, any one person's life is more important than this. But as with anything, there are competing concerns, and you have to kind of weigh pros and cons of most everything in life. And you all have talked about some of the things that are concerning from a legal standpoint. That's the ability of public input, transparency. That's the competing concern here. And I know that doesn't outweigh anybody's health or life. But as we well know from going through this, there are technology issues. There are folks who simply will not be able to participate or have access legitimately. We have that among our own group. So we know there are many who are like that, who are not elected officials. So that's the concern. And obviously the mayor is the highest ranking county official we have, and we're choosing that official for the next 2 years, and transparency and public input in that are paramount. And at the time, like Mr. Hill said, and still, due to, I don't know what the delay is with the governor, there is no executive order extending the meetings yet. We expect it. It's not there. We can't advertise for things, 2 months in advance to give people notice if we don't have legal authority to have that kind of meeting when the advertisements due. We didn't. We still don't. I'm hoping that he's going to do that if he's going to do it, so we know for sure. But I'm certainly not saying I'm against the electronic meeting. If that's what you all choose and we can legally do it that way, perfect. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood where I was coming from with it. And Abby is correct about, the order allows partial in-person, partial Zoom, but I don't think we have the technological capability to accomplish that in large numbers, where, for instance, we could have limited public attendance at the gym to maintain the cohort 6 feet spacing. And once that capacity is reached, the rest is Zoom. I don't think we can do that because we don't have the technology where everybody can see and hear. So if we were going to consider a hybrid meeting such as that with limited public attendance, I think the courtroom is our only option, and it's going to be pretty limited to do that. So in any event, the decision is your all's. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood where I was coming from.
Okay, thank you. Josh, do you see a problem with a hybrid? So let's say we have some people that want to attend, but because they are compromised with pre-existing conditions, let's say, or they have someone in their household that they are caring for that would lend, if they were exposed, endanger their health. So do you see a problem with a hybrid of for those, particularly for those of us who are going to vote on this issue, of being able to vote and represent our constituents?
Yeah, that's what I was saying there. If in fact, which apparently is going to happen, the authority to hold electronic meetings is extended, then certainly any commissioner or, that didn't want to be there in person could vote from home. But that's what I was kind of getting to with the technological constraints. We couldn't have that meeting in a gym and do it hybrid because there's no way that everyone is going to be able to see and hear what's said, if you get what I'm saying. I mean, so the public's not going to be able to hear the commissioners and vice versa in such a large setting with the technology we have. So I think any kind of hybrid meeting, in my opinion, would have to be basically in the courtroom or a smaller space where that could actually work. To everybody can see and hear in real time. I mean, that's the goal.
Okay, thank you.
Chairman Acuff,
Yes, ma'am.
we have Dr. Kershke online with us now.
Okay, great.
I apologize for being late.
That's okay. We understand you've had a busy day.
Talking to an irate parent of someone that's been quarantined, sorry.
Well, I'm sure you're getting to have a lot of those conversations. So, and I know your bedside manner is good. So hopefully everything's copacetic going forward here. We've just been asking questions. Caroline attended, and maybe you did too, the governor's call today. She just gotten off of that. So we got an idea about the numbers in our community and in the region. We kind of laid out, and I think she probably told you what our intent was going forward, to select a new mayor to fill out Mayor Barnett's remaining term in an open space in a gym. We'd chosen Hampton High School, but how do we go about doing that? And I think most people were interested in your all's opinion on, as Caroline says, you all don't tell us exactly what to do or impede government, but we depend heavily on you all in terms of a pandemic to tell us what is safe to do and what is not safe to do, where we don't endanger not only one another, but the public as well.
Yeah, so, obviously there's kind of levels of risk that, Zoom obviously being the safest kind of thing. And then, in person with small groups and everyone 6 feet apart, and then, if you have a crowded, auditorium with lots of people in there, obviously that'd be the highest level of risk. So it sounds like you all were talking about things that would, try to keep it towards the lower end of the scale in terms of risk. So what's your current strategy, I guess, of how to do the meeting?
Chairman Hill, you want to chime in? I mean,
Yes, sir. Dr. Kershke, we were actually looking at having it at Hampton High School, and we're looking at doing it on the first Monday of their fall break, being that way if there is anybody who is positive with corona, that it would be basically dead by the time the kids come back. We looked at an open floor plan with wide open space where people could spread out. And now that the mask mandate is being extended, if the mayors so choose to make that mandatory, we can, in fact, mandate that for the people attending. And I do believe we would offer mask and hand sanitizer to everybody coming in attendance. But now that the electronic meetings are supposed to be extended, that's opened up a new door for us to basically, not become a super spreader of this. So what's your opinion? You're the expert, not me. And I'm open for all suggestions from everybody.
Dave, you're on mute. Sorry.
Story of my life. So, at least recently. So, yeah, the lowest level of risk would be to do a virtual meeting. Is there any reason not to do a virtual meeting? Like, has there been pushback or anything against that? Against that?
I feel like the public is going to want to be involved in this. They want to hear. They probably want to ask questions. Internet is not very good in our county and in the rural areas, so I feel like you're going to probably get a lot of those people. I'm not opposed to seeing if the radio station would broadcast it live, and maybe some other options. But that's the only reason we were actually at the time, because there was no electronic meetings going forward at that point. That's why we scheduled as is.
Yeah.
But so now that that's opened up, I feel like Zoom is the safest option for us. But I do want to be transparent and open to the public so they have their input.
Yeah, so I guess doing it all on Zoom would be the safest thing. There are some, like we had a Zoom meeting last night with like 240 people on it, where some people had the ability to talk and share, and other people had like kind of listen only mode and view only mode. So that'd be an option. I guess you could kind of do a hybrid thing like the schools are doing, where, people, especially like older people and people that are vulnerable, could have the option of Zooming in, and you could have people that either, don't have access to that or whatever, attend in person, and that would give you the ability to spread out more potentially. Although again, I don't know, doing it all virtual, especially given the fact that we're having such a large increase in cases currently with, the hospital filling up and those issues. Zoom would be the safest way to go about it, but I don't know if there would be a way to do a hybrid thing for those. I mean, you could try to do Zoom only and see what kind of pushback you get against that from the public. I think broadcasting it on the radio would be an excellent kind of way to let everybody at least be able to hear. And then potentially you could have like some period after that people could, email in or phone in opinions or whatever.
Well, I do believe that the county attorney told us originally that we couldn't do it in 2 meetings as I had planned on doing, but I believe we had the option to defer the vote, which would give time for constituents to reach out to their commissioners to voice their opinion or their thoughts about the candidates. I mean, if that's the option of the body that they want to do that.
I mean, yeah, that sounds like the kind of safest way to go about it, if that's agreeable to everybody.
Attorney Harden, is that correct? Am I stating that correctly?
Yes, sir. It is intended to be completed in a one meeting setting, but it does allow for the commission to vote by majority vote to delay the actual vote on who's going to be the successful candidate. But the entire process has to be completed. All nominations have to be made. Any questions and everything's going to be asked of the nominees. I mean, essentially, you got to do the whole thing besides vote, and then you can delay that to another meeting if you choose to do so. But that's up to you. And the radio option, that's something I hadn't heard before. But the issue with the executive order is that we have to provide at least live audio to everyone and a recording of live audio of everything that happens that's saved and available within 48 hours. So obviously the live audio part would be met by the radio broadcast. But if we have some sort of hybrid where people are speaking outside of what is picked up on the radio or the technology that we have for the Zoom meetings, then we wouldn't have an actual complete audio recording. So we wouldn't be complying with that. There's little picky stuff, obviously, that nobody ever thought of with the pandemic and all this. Like essentially the statute says registered voters of the county can submit names at the meeting in person. Well, they're not going to be at the meeting in person on Zoom, and maybe not everyone will have capability to speak on the meeting. And so we can't fulfill that part of the statute. Obviously, that's a picky thing, and maybe in the realm of a global pandemic, there's not much can be done about that. But things like that are what I'm considering. And obviously, any backlash that comes from a failed attempt to participate by the public, that's the whole point of open meetings and what we're trying to accomplish. And we got to balance that, like I said, with public health concerns. And no answer is going to be perfect. It would be wonderful if we had the ability to broadcast live in some way from the gym that everyone could hear and see everything, but I just don't believe that we have the technology to pull that off.
So if we do the fully Zoom, and that's like our normal meetings where some people meet at the courthouse, everybody else does it from their house, that'll be live, I guess, on Zoom plus YouTube. And if the radio station could set up at the courthouse and broadcast live from there and pick up everybody's conversation, would that fulfill that?
Sure. Yeah, that would. But what I'm saying is any member of the public who had no opportunity to use Zoom. I mean, like I said, we've got some folks that have to attend in person, where otherwise they wouldn't be able to participate because, for whatever reason, they don't have internet or they're not comfortable on Zoom. So obviously multiply that number out to the public, and there's many, many more of those people. And so, they're not going to be able to participate is all I'm saying. And that may not be able to be held. I'm not saying it can.
Right.
There will be those people.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes, sir, Mr. Tester.
Well, I do have a question. I mean, I may have misunderstood something, but all the public should be able to have the capability to call in and use a regular telephone and participate in this meeting. And would that not help meet the criteria of what we're trying to reach? I mean, I feel sure everybody has telephone capabilities.
Yes, sir. I would agree with that.
Attorney Harden.
Yes, sir.
You were talking about nominating from the floor. If we don't do the meeting at the high school, and if they can't nominate from the floor, are we held liable for that?
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. Obviously, you can't make everybody happy, but some person who felt like their voice wasn't heard or didn't have the opportunity to have their wishes known could certainly make a complaint or something more. That could happen, of course. And we've had people show up to our Zoom meetings at the courthouse, and then we turn them away. And yeah, everybody does have a phone, and so do the commissioners who come to the meetings in person. We've had it Zoom this whole time. So it's not the best example we've set on that. So how can we say the public has to do it? That's all I'm getting at. Nothing's going to be perfect, but I'm just trying to point out there could be some issues with public participation in the meeting. And a meeting of this importance is probably the most, one of the most important meetings that the county commission has had, I would assume, to elect a mayor for 2 years that the voters don't get to choose. So it's a very important meeting.
So if you did it in person, remind me of what the plan was for that?
We were going to set up the commissioners on the gym floor and basically spread out the citizens within the stands. Hopefully everybody would have a mask on if the mayor does make that mask mandate mandatory. And then we'd just call the candidates out one by one to answer the questions, and then the nomination process would start and the voting would start. And there would be public comment. I would open up public comment for anybody to speak.
Yeah, so it seems like it would be important to have a virtual option for people that were like 80 years old and didn't want to come out in public. If you did it in person, I don't know. Would that still be possible? I guess if it's in the gym, it's going to be one of those situations where it'll be hard to hear all the dialogue. Potentially, if you tried to, although I guess if it's going through microphones, there still would be potential for people to listen in on the radio or.
Right. I would hope that they could hear everything, but I don't know if anything feeds back through, if it's going to get in the loop and just start echoing or anything like that.
Yeah.
That would be an issue with the mic system up there trying to put this through Zoom as well. So that would eliminate Zoom participation there because we wouldn't be able to mic all of the commissioners with the equipment we have. And I don't even think the schools has the equipment that would be able to mic 24 commissioners and have a mic for the public and being able to not have feedback on that loop for clear audio.
Thanks, Abby.
And that's the problem we've had throughout this whole Zoom process. If we get, and we got better equipment than we had, but if we get more than 8 or 10 people in a single room, we're maxed out as to legitimate Zoom capability. So, I mean, a hybrid meeting in a larger setting, just in my opinion, wouldn't be possible. So, I mean, we could have a very limited hybrid meeting in the current setup in the courtroom, but I mean, you're talking about spreading out cohorts of folks 6 feet apart. I mean, you're not going to get more than, 20 or so people actually in the audience, if that. And so it seems like it's an all or nothing. It's either in person or it's Zoom.
Any other comments or questions while we have our folks from the health department on the line? Any other questions for Dr.
It seems obvious, like from a public health perspective, Zoom would be best, but if it's not gonna, fulfill the requirements for a fair and free election of the next mayor, it'll just be a situation of, trying your best to social distance within that space that you choose. Is that the largest centralized space?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say the option has been brought by one commissioner to actually have it in the football stadium outside.
December, yeah, that'd be the way to go.
Yeah, if the weather cooperated.
Okay.
That would be safer than inside. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
We hope we do.
I think the technical issues would be even greater on a football field, trying to get the sound where everybody can hear and be heard.
You're talking about the month of December, November, correction.
There's also the possibility that we would only need 2 microphones, one for whoever is speaking, and then one for the candidate that is currently receiving the questions, and potentially a third for the chairman.
All right, any other comments or suggestions or questions that need to be asked at this juncture? I know that several folks have church night tonight, and I know that Dr. Kirsty and Caroline have had a long, grueling day, so I don't want to hold anybody any longer than need be if there are no questions.
Dr. Acuff, Brad Johnson, 3rd District.
Yes, sir.
Overall, when you start looking at what has been disclosed as to how we can set up, really the meeting in the gymnasium, you only have, I'm going to say, a choke point of about 30 feet from the front door of that school. You get into a mass arena type setting. But the biggest problem, I think they really don't understand. There's a lot of people who don't understand the process that Sherman Hill and Mayor Woodby and Miss Abby and them have already set a base on how this thing would operate as far as your candidates, their location, where they will be, how the whole thing is laid out for our public. But one of the biggest things is, even though the mayor, if she so desires to make it mandatory for masks, there is no law to say to anybody. I mean, if there's one that comes in and says, I'm not going to put it on, there is nobody has authority to force that. It's just an unenforceable rule until the law has been passed to it. Now, in some rooms like that, for the sheriff's department and the deputies, they have to have authority and should be there just in case of that, but they have nothing to stand on. Because, a mayor or a county chair, as you know, and us as commissioners, we don't have such authority to create statutes. And I'll let Josh address that if he likes, but that's the same as our businesses today in the county. They got on their no service mandatory mask, and then I stand there watching the door. 50 goes in without them, and the security people wave at them and say, "Howdy ho," you know, Goober says, "Hey." But they can make that work. I really do believe, but we're going to have some type of authority to where you always got one you got to deal with, and that we have some way that we can handle just that one incident that could mature. But I think it could be done in there if they've got their fan units on, having the air movement and the air changes would be a great help. And I know we could expect 1,000, but I really don't see such numbers of that. But just somebody that can make sure that they're spacing, their distance, and when they come in and they go out, that they are distanced, and they have the hand sanitizer, all that. Chairman Hill and them have I think, a real good base plan, but I think that our fellow commissioners and some of our concerned public has not heard it or have a mind on how they're going to set it up, so they in return welcomes negative comments.
Yeah. Thank you.
Chairman Acuff,
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question for Attorney Harden. On the topic of deferring the vote to another time, do we still not have to finish the voting process by that same 90-day deadline?
Yes, ma'am. Like I said, the actual deadline would work out for the regular December meeting if that's the way it works. But yes, you do still have to fill this position within 120 days.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Dr. Acuff.
Yes, sir, Commissioner Garland.
Question for Dr. Kershke and Mrs. Hurt. It's a medical question, I guess. As far as, with seasonal allergies, flu season coming on, and of course the COVID, what's really, kind of the main, symptom or something like that of COVID that you wouldn't experience in like the seasonal allergy or flu? Just a question like that.
Yeah, so it's actually pretty hard to tell the flu from coronavirus. There's not really specific symptoms for flu or coronavirus, where you can tell them from other colds or from necessarily from each other. So, it's kind of hard to tell. And a lot of people that say they're experiencing seasonal allergy symptoms have tested positive. So and sometimes, some instances, it's hard to tell from seasonal allergies. So,
right.
We would recommend, excluding anyone that doesn't feel well. We recommend that those people stay home.
Okay.
Until tested negative or given an alternative diagnosis by their provider.
And is that normal if you go to your provider that they offer the COVID test to you?
Yeah, so most providers are able to do that, but we also at the Carter County Health Department, you can go down and see Caroline 5 days a week, and they're doing testing at the Carter County Health Department for free.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, other questions, comments for the cause here this evening?
Dr. Acuff, I have a couple questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, I'm a little bit late, so you may have already answered these. If we're voting, are people going to be able to change their vote at the last minute? Or if we only have 3 microphones, are we going to do a paper vote, or we're going to pass around a microphone, or how's that going to work exactly? Mr. Harden.
If you're asking me, definitely can't do a paper vote. Everyone has to actually voice their vote out loud and be heard. And so obviously you may be either walking by a microphone or passing a microphone around because everybody's voice has to verbally be heard for their vote. And the changing the vote got a little complicated when we got the voting machines, because it kind of locks you in. But yes, typically we can call the entire roll, 24 people can vote, and then the chairman can say, does anyone want to change their vote? And anyone can change their vote before the results are announced.
What about abstaining?
Sure, you can abstain and then change it to a vote. Depending on when your name's called in the process, you could have some strategy there and change from abstaining to voting, and change from voting from one to another. All that's fair game before the vote is finalized.
Okay, thank you.
And something else is, any commissioner who is nominated for the position, it is not that you can't vote for yourself, it's you can't vote, period. So if a commissioner is nominated, their vote, they cannot vote, and that reduces the overall number of voting commissioners. So that keeps reducing the number of votes it takes to win the position.
What happens if all the commissioners are nominated?
That's a good question.
I guess we go home. We don't have a mayor.
Chairman Acuff, I'd like to ask another question of the attorney.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Attorney Harden, I know we have to voice vote so that the public can hear, but do we have to voice vote one at a time like we usually do? Or is it possible that we paper vote and then someone like you says Holdren, and at that time I announce my voice vote, but you're sitting there holding the piece of paper that I've already written, but nobody else in the room knows what I've written, and then you call my name. You understand what I'm saying?
I think, but essentially whatever you wrote down on the paper is meaningless, and what you announced matters, and nobody would tally up what was written down on the paper. So I think, there's been some talk about that in the past, and it used to be when the voice were called like we're having to do now, because we didn't have the voting machine, that maybe it should be mixed up, we should go in different orders. But that kind of went by the wayside when we got the voting equipment. But yeah, I mean, if you're the first one to vote, you have no idea what everybody else is going to do. For the last one to vote, you might decide the thing. So, but everybody's vote will have to be read out loud, and anybody would have the option to change the vote before it's made final.
Thank you.
Okay, other comments, questions? Okay, I don't see any hands raised, or nobody is moving their mouth, and I'm not hearing them because you're on mute. So,
Dr. Acuff.
Yeah, yes.
I do have one thing to bring up for Attorney Harden once the discussion for the health portion of this is over.
Okay. Well, any other questions for Dr. Kershke and Carolyn Hurt? Okay, seeing none. Thank you both for taking your time this evening. I know it's been a long, arduous day for both of you. We just appreciate your insight and your advice in this matter. So thank you both very much.
Thank you
for having us on.
Okay, Chairman Hill, go ahead.
Attorney Harden, I've had some calls today about meetings of getting paid for the Zoom meetings. Could you address that to the members who are listening, please?
Sure. So the actual rule that was approved by the commission and included in the rules and procedures, I think it's Rule 10, Section H2 maybe. It says if the meetings are at the same time in the same location and they're just consecutive meeting, then you get paid for one. You get paid the one meeting fee. So you could, theoretically have 20 committee meetings that could last, 48 hours straight. But if they were advertised and you convene there in that same location to have all the meetings, you get paid once. If there are a grouping of committees like rules and bylaws and law enforcement where there's 4, and they met on 4 separate nights, then you get paid 4 separate times. So essentially, it's unless it's a consecutive same day, same time meetings, each separate meeting you get paid separately. So that's the way it works.
Thank you. And also, any of the chairmen are on here. If I also got some complaints that some of y'all might not get paid because you didn't turn in your committee pages of who all attended the meetings this past month. So please make sure you're submitting those to the clerk's office, please.
For you.
Chairman Acuff, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, sir. Unless there are other comments or questions of the attorney or any other further discussion, I think we're finished with the workshop for tonight, unless somebody has another pressing issue that pertains to this issue. No.
Is there any suggestions since our discussion, please?
I have a question. I noticed that all our meetings was advertised as being in person. Will we make some change on that for the November meetings, or we have an
Yeah,
in person?
we plan to re-advertise. We just confirmed on Friday that the governor was going to extend the Zoom meeting. But she plans to re-advertise.
Thank you.
Miss Abby?
Yes, sir.
This is Mark Tester. Would you please send me a list of all the meetings in October like you did last month? That was very helpful.
I'll be more than happy to. And for those chair people in here currently who are for health and welfare rules and bylaws, law enforcement, and buildings and grounds, I still need you guys to get with me on a date for when these meetings are going to be. Because we've discussed it a couple of times, but nobody's went ahead and picked a date. So we need a date for those meetings to advertise it.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Abby,
Yes, sir.
the highway committee meeting will be held on Thursday, the 5th at 5 o'clock.
Okay, I will let Patsy know so she can change that time in the re-advertisement.
Okay then, thank you.
Let me say one more thing. No. Go ahead.
Okay, so this is for Attorney Hardin. Whenever we're voice voting on Zoom, so I mean this for not just the mayoral appointment, but for any meeting that we have on Zoom, is it not true that we are tallying the votes as they're stated? So I'm not understanding how people can change their votes at the end because they can be tallied as they're announced.
Sure, that's the way it always worked. And before we had the voting equipment, yes. So that's why it's hard for Miss Mary and Patsy sometimes, because it's easy for us to sit there and make little marks with every vote. But when somebody says, I want to change my vote, if you don't write down how that person voted, then you don't know which votes you're changing. And so it becomes very difficult. But yes, procedurally, anyone is allowed to change their vote before it's final. It just makes taking multiple votes like that in the same meeting very difficult for the reason I just said. You have to keep up not only with the numbers, but who voted which way. And that's why Miss Mary and Miss Patsy sometimes need help keeping up with it, because they're doing a lot more than just making little marks.
Thank you.
Chairman Acuff, Brad Johnson.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to state that, for the good of all the chairs and all these procedures and all about the change of vote, read your own policy and procedure. It gives the chair, and so does the Roberts Rules, allows a procedure prior to asking for the final tally that changes can be made. So read your own rules, folks. I mean, gosh, it'll make it easier on you.
And I was going to say one more thing, not about that, about the actual publication for the meeting to appoint the mayor. By statute, it just has to be published 7 days in advance. obviously we thought it's way more important than to do that. And so we've tried to get out ahead of it with this publication earlier. So if it's going to be changed, please, as early as possible, and hopefully we'll get the same kind of news coverage that we had the first time. So there's not a lot of confusion that in fact it is Zoom if that's the decision. So, 7 days is sufficient, but not what I would suggest. I mean, the more notice, the better.
Thank you. Any other comments, concerns, questions?
Question, Dr. Acuff.
Yes. Go ahead, Commissioner Garland.
Real quick, as far as nominations, I think I heard this, they can be made by commissioners as well as citizens that are at the meeting. Is that right?
Well, no, actually, commissioners have to nominate the people, but what the statute allows is any registered voter in the county to submit names to the chair, either in writing in advance or at the meeting in person, and those are supposed to be considered. So not, what matters is who the 24 of you all nominate, and those are the people that get interviewed or questioned. But yeah, the statute does allow registered voters to submit the name of any person, and obviously that kind of leads you to the fact that those names should be mentioned by the chair. And if any of you all have the desire to nominate one of those people, you can.
Right. So commissioners only for nominations, though, right? That's
correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioner Collins, did you have a comment?
Yes, did I understand that the highway meeting has been changed from 6 o'clock to 5 o'clock?
Yes, ma'am.
Was that publicized?
No, it will be publicized when she redoes it.
Okay, what's the reasoning for changing that?
Well, the reason for changing that rules and bylaws and some of the others was having theirs at 6 o'clock. So with 4 meetings or something like that. So we backed ours up 1 hour for courtesy so they could do theirs on the same night.
Okay.
All right. Anything else? Other pressing questions? I know Chairman Hill would like, if you've got suggestions after you've thought about what you've heard tonight, I'm sure drop him an email or text message. I'm sure he would appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for being here and for the questions and the discussion. So everyone have a good evening. See you soon.
Thank you, Dr. Acuff.
Thank you, Dr. Acuff.
Good night, John Boy.